Welcome friends to another r/maliciouscompliance video. If you want to do a good deed today, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by Duck and Donuts. We cut the darn burrito in half. So I bartend at a Mexican restaurant and we often have guests that share the burrito. It isn't uncommon to have people ask if we can cut the burrito in half for them. The thing is, we give them a steak knife for the burrito so they can cut it up whatever way they want. Whenever someone requests that the burrito be cut in half, I let them know that we're going to get them a proper knife for the table, and that's usually the end of the conversation. Sometimes it's an older guest or a parent with some young kids, and in that case, of course we'll help you out because you need some help. So one day, two young couples come in to dine with us, and I got the request from one of the young guys as he and his girlfriend were going to share the burrito. I let him know that we would get him a steak knife, but it wasn't enough for him. He was insisting that we cut it and was getting pretty freaking heated about it. Unless these two were going to swallow each half like snakes, I didn't see the point. I got tired of trying to explain that he can use the knife however he wants, and finally acquiesced. What pissed me off is after I agreed, he sat back all smug and put his arm around his girl and said, "You see, that wasn't so hard, was it?" So I put the order in and told the chef, "We're gonna cut this burrito in half for this guy, but we're going to do it lengthwise." He was confused at first, but when I told him about this kid, he was all for it. So the food came up, and I ran it for them. A burrito beautifully cut in half, evenly across the whole length of the burrito. It was impressively done, actually. I dropped the food, and I could tell he was pissed. I was rehearsing my response in my head, but he didn't say anything. I think he got the point that I wouldn't give a crap what he had to say anyway. So after a silent time serving them, they got the bill, didn't tip, left quietly, and left a 1-star review the next day, and never returned. Nowadays, when I ask the chef to cut a burrito for a family or some other guest that could use the help, he jokingly asks me which way he should cut it. So, in your opinion, if you're going to a Mexican restaurant, do you think it's ridiculous to insist that they cut the burrito in half rather than them give you the knife to do it yourself? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Dino Left the Chat. You wanted a subject summary? Well, here you have it. This happened when I was applying for a master's degree abroad. I had graduated with my bachelor's degree in my country. It was a very general degree where you touched a bit of every area, with more subjects related to the core topics of your choice. Think like a BA in STEM where you study mathematics, computer science, physics, etc., and then you choose informatics and physics as main subjects. For simplicity's sake, let's stretch this comparison for the rest of the post. Ever since my first year, I realized my passion laid in the section Information Technology of the broader CS field, and I took all of the subjects I could on that specific elective. When I finished my BA, I wanted to apply for a specific MA in another country. This was an interdisciplinary master's with subjects from information technology and subjects from a completely different field, economy. Since it's quite specialized, they accepted bachelor graduates of both fields as long as they proved 2/3 of their bachelor curriculum had either information technology or an economy-related subject. Well, great. I checked my transcript and it seems as if I could qualify. Except that most of my information technology subjects were under the broader field name. I literally had one subject named Information Technology, and all the rest were Introduction to Computer Science 1, Computer Science 2, and there it goes until the end. I messaged the person of contact and asked them what to do. They answer back that I should send them the official explanation of my degree, which doesn't work because, as I said, it's so broad it sounds like you just had a subject of each topic and moved on. They answer me to send the official module handbook, which every university in that country has. But in my country, university courses are not grouped in official modules and such things don't exist. So I tell them that. I guess they were getting tired of me as they just answered to just send an official subject summary. They were very clear that whatever I sent had to be official from uni. They encouraged me to explain a bit about my bachelor's degree in the motivation letter, but understandably, no personal statement would be considered proof of qualifying to enter the master's. No official subject summary existed or was expedited for my degree, and so I told them, but further messages went unanswered, so I just did what they asked for. I went to my university's webpage of the previous years and downloaded all of the subject descriptions of every information technology related subject I ever took. They were quite lengthy since they included much useless metadata and most were just barely descriptive to justify what the focus was. In my country, you take a lot of small subjects for little credit, so there were a lot of subject descriptions to add. In addition, I had studied a year abroad, so I also added the transcript of that stay abroad and the module handbooks of the BA degrees where the subjects that I studied abroad were included, which were quite a few considering that I had to take subjects from many different departments back then. The PDF merge document had a total of 105 sweet pages with all this information, and I attached them to my application with zero remorse. The funny thing is, I received my acceptance letter less than a week after I applied. It was a pretty competitive MA, so while I doubt they read the 105 pages I attached, maybe the effort snatched me some extra points. I can just imagine the person that's responsible for reviewing all this information getting what feels like a Harry Potter's length PDF in the mail. They start scrolling through it and they're like, oh my god, just pass them already. I can't read all of this. Our next story is by Inslaff1990, driving miles to save pennies. Door-to-door salesman, I use a van which is provided for me. I work long, hard days. During the winter, chances are I won't take a break because I either don't have time or because to stop is to lose body heat and makes working outdoors a lot harder. I work 10 hours a day and the first hour's unpaid as I go into my depot to fill my van so I have enough time for my customers. Managers complain that I'm not filling my van up at the supermarket 5 minutes down the road as it's cheaper there, that I'm filling the van up at whatever petrol station is near where I'm working that day. I say I'm already spending 1 to 1.5 hours of my own time on a morning giving you free labor. I'm not going to come in an extra 20 minutes earlier on top of that just to save you pennies on your diesel bills. I get no more complaints, but a month later, a company-wide email goes out telling everyone it's mandatory we use the local supermarkets to save fuel costs. Okay, I'll comply. Maliciously. I now do my business as normal, but I now drive all the way from whichever area I'm working, usually an hour away, to drive to the supermarket to save pennies, then drive for an hour back to where I should be working. They haven't said anything yet, but my ability to be petty is a lot higher than their ability to scare me with termination. In my book, OP has this completely right. They're already getting an hour to an hour and a half of absolutely free labor from OP. You want an extra 20 minutes of free time on top of that? How about you start paying me for that time? You'll start to realize that, hey, you're actually saving money here. Our next story is by Petite Chat Noir. Should I stay or should I go? I work some weekends answering emails, customer service, and got a good one today. Buyer wrote in early this morning, Sunday, with the title line, Urgent, Response Requested. She happened to be the first email, otherwise I never prioritize emails that say urgent because it's obnoxious. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, I open the email and she's asking about the whereabouts of her order. So urgent. She didn't provide her order number and the email she wrote in from was not linked to an account, so I wrote back asking for additional information to locate the order. She wrote back 5 minutes later, Hi, thanks. First of all, it's a Sunday and you should not be working. Okay, but you also wrote in on a Sunday demanding an immediate response? She also added, any company that has employees working on a Sunday should be ashamed. I'm really in disbelief about this. I didn't know so-and-so company would operate like this. I really don't like it. Sad face. Sad face? Get out of here. And then she said, if I were you, I wouldn't be working on a Sunday. So I simply did not respond back. Also because she still didn't provide me any of the information I requested. 5 to 10 minutes later, I was working my way through other email inquiries and I see she wrote back, the message just said 7 question marks and hello? Are you there, God? It's me, asking that you please help these people find their minds. Oh, how you wish in that moment you could just abandon your customer service restraints and be like, you know what, you're right, I'm not working today. See you later. And then, I don't know, block her. Oh, how satisfying that would be. This next story is by JBomb619. City said our front door was too rusty. Years ago, I was living with my cousin and her son, and we didn't live in the best neighborhood in our city. None of our houses looked nice at all. We basically lived in the hood. But one day, the city decided to try and gentrify our neighborhood to bring in more residents, and we had a very rusty front door. My cousin constantly got letters in the mail to either get a new door or paint over the rust or face a penalty. We didn't have a lot of money, so getting a new door wasn't an option for my cousin. She would constantly get letters from the city every week, it seemed like it. My cousin was fed up with being harassed by the city. My cousin and I went to Home Depot, and she bought the most flamboyant orange color you could find in the paint section. We decided to paint the front door that color. The city was trying to fight my cousin about it because it was obnoxious, but since we painted it, the city couldn't do anything about it. To this day, the orange is still the color orange, and my cousin will still paint over it to make it look brand new. If you're gonna harass your residents in a low-income area to somehow come up with the money to do these fixes and repairs, and somewhat trivial ones for the area too, like a rusted door, if you can't tell them what color to paint it, don't be surprised when they comply, just not in the way you want them to. Our next story is by 5 O'Clock Pizza. Told how to do my job incorrectly, so I comply. I used to be a videographer and shot a lot of stuff for cable TV like news segments, talk show segments, etc. One time I'm called by such and such TV and they want me to do a video of a pretty famous author. This will be background stuff on him for a segment they're making about his next book. Well, I go to his office and shoot him at his desk, then around the office doing various things. Next stop is his house. I don't know where he lives, so I follow him. Once I get there and grab my gear, he's already inside. His parents are visiting as he has a newborn and he says, "You should have been here when I got home. Then you could have gotten me seeing my parents and my baby." I said, "Let's do it again. I'll be inside and you come in and I'll be ready and get it." Well, Mr. Famous Author was having none of that. I missed it, so we couldn't recreate it. I said, "Sure we can. It's done all the time." We actually had just faked a phone call in his office minutes ago, and he said, "I practically invented such and such TV and we do not do that." I again tried to assure him that it was done all the time and that I'd personally done it for many national TV programs, from Oprah to Nightline. He wouldn't budge. In the business, staging things, even for non-fiction, is regularly done as it helps people that aren't actors keep from looking like idiots and gives the editor the footage they need to do their job. Well, this guy had a lot of interesting things in his house and suggested I follow him around and he would explain it all. Great idea, I'd say. So I put a mic on him and I follow him around as he talks about the various items. I'm not always in the right spot as he hasn't told me where he's going. And per his demand, we can't reshoot it for a better angle or to have him explain it better or more clearly. The footage comes out just okay. Then the malicious part. After we go through the house and he discusses his collection, he sees his wife with their newborn and he grabs the baby and says, "This is new baby so-and-so." Then his dog walks up to him and he introduces the dog. So I've got him, his baby, his dog, and his wife all nicely framed, and I'm waiting for him to do the final introduction. His wife. Nothing as he grins at the camera. Seconds tick by as I continue to roll. Finally I said, "Would you like to introduce your wife?" He quickly catches himself and introduces his wife. Unfortunately, we couldn't shoot it again and have him introduce his wife before his dog. Unfortunately, we couldn't shoot it again and have him introduce his wife before his dog because he knows what he's doing. Not me. I felt bad for the editor, trying to fix that. I really hope that was a massive moment of embarrassment and maybe knocked him off his high horse a little bit because he realized, you know what, maybe there is a method to the madness of reshooting and recompositing things. Not that they would probably admit it though. And our final story of the day is by Lazy Slobbers. Won't pay my reasonable taxi fares? Some years ago, the company I worked for would not pay for legitimate and reasonable taxi fares. In example, taxi to and from the venues on work business that I was instructed to attend. We had to go to a company-organized event at the far side of the city, which also had a complete gridlock. Well, there was no rule saying we couldn't commandeer the company van, along with a company driver, which I promptly did, and I bundled 2 colleagues into the van along with my good self. Next day, and the company management was angry. But there was nothing they could do other than intro a policy saying no one could use the company van without permission. I quit not long after and went back to my old company. A little later, a buddy, a very talented graphic designer, was offered a job by the bad company, so I took great pleasure detailing everything that was wrong with the company. He turned them down. Really, I think that's just how things shake down. If you're a bad company that treats their employees not very well, Even if it's necessarily intentional or not, word's going to get around one way or another. There's really nobody else that they could possibly blame. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.